Okay, good morning, grade 9s. I hope you guys are well. So I just thought for today, what we would do is look at the processes of inhalation and exhalation. This is to understand the mechanical mechanisms or the physical mechanisms of breathing, okay? And so obviously inhalation is the process of taking air in, okay? So this is taking air into the system, while exhalation is taking air out of the system, okay, or releasing air out of the system. Remember, you inhale air, that air contains oxygen, okay? So we inhale air that contains oxygen, okay, and that oxygen is used for the process of respiration, okay, and the process of cellular respiration allows you to convert glucose into energy, while exhalation is the process of breathing out air that contains CO2, carbon dioxide, okay? You don't breathe out pure carbon dioxide, same as you don't breathe in pure oxygen, okay? You breathe in air, and that air contains oxygen, while you breathe out air, and that air contains carbon dioxide. Okay, so let's look at the process of inhalation first, okay? So inhalation is the process of breathing in. Okay, we're going to look at the muscles that are involved in this specific process. So firstly, we need the intercostal muscles. So the intercostal muscles are illustrated over here. Okay, those intercostal muscles are the muscles between the ribs. Okay, intercostal muscles. And these muscles during the process of inhalation are going to contract. So right now, if everybody just takes a big breath in, what you feel is as you contract, you lift the rib cage upwards. So the rib cage moves upwards. Okay? So the rib cage pulls upwards and up and out. So it pulls that way, okay, during the process of inhalation. And that is because of the contraction of these muscles. If you were to just take a breath right now and you hold that breath, you will feel that your muscles are in a contracted state, okay? The other muscle involved in this process is the diaphragm over here. The diaphragm is a sheet of muscle found at the bottom of the thoracic cavity over there. And when it contracts, it's going to pull downwards, okay, and so it pulls downwards. So we have essentially an increasing in volume. So we increase the volume. In other words, we enlarge the size of the thoracic cavity. We've pulled the rib cage upwards, we've pulled the diaphragm downwards, and we've increased the volume. Okay? We've increased the volume of our thoracic cavity. And as we've increased the volume, the big thing is that we've done is we decrease pressure. Decrease pressure. Okay? With increased volume, when you have more space, when you have more available area, there's a decrease in pressure. In other words, think about it for a second, grade 9s. If we were to put all of us into a classroom, a large classroom, nobody feels under pressure. You've got enough space, there's lots of volume, there's your own desk, your own chair that you can sit at, okay? But if we took everybody into a smaller volume and you put them all into the back room, for example, you suddenly find yourself on top of each other, pushing each other, and you feel stuck. That's because there's decreased volume. When you have decreased volume, you have increased pressure. The opposite applies. When you have increased volume, we have decreased pressure. And so what happens when we open up the thoracic cavity? In other words, when the rib cage pulls upwards and opens, when the diaphragm pulls downwards, we increase the volume, and that decreases pressure. And because we've decreased the pressure, it draws the air inwards. And that air contains oxygen inwards. Okay? So we draw the air inwards, and that air then obviously fills the lungs. It's when we fill the lungs that then the lungs become full of that air. Okay? The lungs themselves don't do any contracting. Okay, lungs are not a tissue that is able to contract. It's the muscles that contract. So it's the intercostal muscles and it's the diaphragm that contracts. Okay, so the diaphragm will contract and pull upwards and outwards. So the intercostal muscles contract and pull the rib cage upwards and outwards. The diaphragm contracts and pulls downwards, increasing the volume. As we increase the volume, we decrease the pressure, and that pulls air inwards. Okay, I'm going to show you the steps quickly. And grade 9s, you guys can write these steps down. Okay, so here are the steps that we have that allows for inhalation. So this is just talking about inhalation. Firstly, the diaphragm contracts and becomes flattened. So as it contracts, it pulls downwards, becomes flattened. The intercostal muscles contract and the rib cage is lifted upwards. Okay, so it pulls up. And what does that do, grade 9s? Big one over there is that it increases the volume. In other words, the thoracic cavity is now nice and large. We've increased our volume. Okay, and that increase in volume decreases the pressure. And because we have decreased pressure, oxygen-rich air is drawn into the lungs. Okay, so grade 9s, that's the process of inhalation. Everything is in a contracted state. The rib cage is contracted. The diaphragm is contracted. We have increased volume, decreased pressure. We draw air in. And so what we have here is the steps that allow for inhalation. What I would like you guys to do is to learn the process of exhalation on your own. So you're going to learn it on your own. You're going to go through it. If we just have a look at the picture over here, it's exactly the opposite. So we have the intercostal muscles are relaxed. The diaphragm is relaxed. What that does is it pushes upwards, it pulls downwards. And as what we can see here is the volume has now decreased. And because the volume has decreased, we have increased the pressure. Okay, so with a decrease in volume, pressure, there we go. So with a decrease in volume, so the thoracic cavities become smaller. There's a decrease in the size. You can see a comparison to this large thoracic cavity. Here we have a smaller thoracic cavity. That volume, that lowered volume, forces air upwards and outwards. Okay, because we've now got a lower volume, we increase the pressure and we force the air out of the thoracic cavity, and that's how exhalation takes place. And so grade 9s, what I would like for you to do is to essentially write down the steps of exhalation. You can write it straight from either the video, you can pause it now and write it here, or you can get it from the PowerPoint that I've given you previously. And then after you've done your inhalation, I would like you to do exhalation. And grade 9s, that's it for today's video. I'm going to send you a little bit of homework as well. Thanks, grade 9s. I miss you guys plenty and I love you lots. I hope you guys are well. Cheers, guys.